Let's do it. Are we on? Are we live? We are totally live. Oh my God, you guys,
Woo!
happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween! How else
I,
do you say it, Karen? What's the
oh,
Scottish way of saying Happy Halloween?
is it Samhain? Happy Samhain, everyone. Oh my goodness. Happy Halloween. Oh my gosh, we have people coming in from Vegas. Vegas is my second favorite place besides Scotland. So happy Halloween to Vegas. Absolutely. New York. Oh my goodness. Look at all these lovelies. Yay. Happily Minnesota, San Diego, Colorado. Love, love, love. Arizona. Patricia from Michigan. Jen from I can't say that. It's a cool beach. Uh, Arlene from the Midlands, UK. Yay, Amy. I'm sorry you have COVID. That was us last week. Oh my goodness. Well, hello. Happy Halloween. Just in case you're wondering, my name is Amos and I'm Bob Ross's biggest fan. And this is my mullet, which matches my hair exactly. And my unibrow, which is I didn't realize how far away my eyebrows were from each other until I tried to string them together. Like 2 inches. Like 2 inches. So in case you're new to our world, I'm Karen Campbell, and I'm the founder of Awesome Art School, and this is Lucy Brydon.
Hello.
And Lucy, who are you besides my best friend in the whole wide world?
Oh, what do you want to know? At the moment, I'm trying to be a witch, but my witchy hat did not arrive in time. So some cool raven feathers here instead. And check out these special moon earrings.
They're almost as good as my special sideburns.
I know.
Almost.
So jealous of your hair.
You're jealous in my soul patch. I brought my soul patch maker in case I needed to add like a mustache or anything. I could just that could be part of the art lesson. We could how to draw facial hair realistically on your own.
Of course.
Of course. So we have a double lesson for you guys today. So before I forget, subscribe to this channel so that you can go watch the replay, because a lot of people are like, how do we do two? And you can do where you can watch one and follow me. I'm going to be working in markers, as you can see right here. And Lucy's going to be doing the whole lesson in watercolors. Yes. So we're going to do them at the same time. But if you want to rewatch or if you miss anything, you can get back the most easily if you subscribe and just click on live. I do never take these down, so this will stay. You can watch the replays at any time. And that suits you. So we also, besides coming on YouTube and doing really fun artsy things together, we also run an art club called the Celtic Collective. And in that art club, I teach a lot of things, but in this particular art club, I teach in markers, watercolors, ink, and tone paper. Those are my 4 big subjects that I love to teach and the mediums that I specialize in this art club. So I'm just going to show you a super quick rendition of what that might look like. So when I say markers, I'm talking about alcohol markers. And I love them because they are so vibrant. They're so quick to make really cool effects. So these are some great examples. Actually, these are ones I do a lot on YouTube as well. Here's one of our lessons. And in the Celtic Collective, we only do fantasy themes. So unicorns, mermaid, castles, anything spooky, mythological, all of that is fair game. So those are what markers look like. And I'm going to be working in these same markers for our cat today. If I can find it. Here's our cat in markers. So if you haven't already, you still have time. You can head over to awesomeartschool.com and grab the downloads. This actually is our supply list of what we're going to be using right now. There's also a download of the cat template if you want to trace it, but we're also going to walk you through how to draw it right now together. So that is what markers look like. I also work in watercolors and inks. So a lot of my projects have both of them combined, but I love inks because they're super highly saturated. Watercolor, as you can see, fairy. This is like an apothecary witch. Watercolors. inks. I brought these. I forgot that we did these for Halloween last
I
year.
know, that was such a fun project.
So fun. So the Celtic Collective is open right now. If you want to join it, it's also over at awesomeartschool.com. Only open till Friday. And here are two projects that I did. And this one is ink and watercolors, and she is watercolor over graphite. I love, love, love graphite. And the other thing we do is tone paper drawings in there. This is actually a new lesson coming out on November 7th. On the 7th is when we dump all new projects in there. And here's just a past one. I'm kind of obsessed with tone paper. Lucy, what do you teach in the Celtic Collective?
So I mostly do watercolors and gouache. Occasionally I'll delve into Karen's world of graphite or inks or something like that, but most of mine are watercolor and gouache. I actually did stretch myself this month for the upcoming lessons and did some tone paper. Are you proud of me? Here's my tone paper ones that are coming up on the 7th. Just realized that that's back to front, so our cat's going to be back to front as well. I'll have to sort that out.
awesomeartschool.com. See this little ticker in the bottom? That's where you can go download the template right now. awesomeartschool.com.
And here's I've only got a couple on hand, but here's a couple of examples of my watercolor and gouache. So this was from last month, I think it was. Was this this month?
October.
This past month's October lessons. We did some witches, and here's my watercolor witch.
So many people have been doing that one, and they have been amazing.
They look amazing. Some of the students, because when you're a member, we have these monthly member podcast things, just like this, where you get a chance to make suggestions or ask us questions or whatever. And somebody asked about doing gold leaf, so I did gold leaf in this lesson. That was super fun.
Gorgeous.
And this is the gouache witch that I did for October's lesson. I'm absolutely in love with gouache, and I'm gonna make all of you in love with gouache as well.
Yeah, Lucy is like the mistress of gouache. Like amazing, amazing. I'm still new at it, but I take a lot of inspiration from Lucy's lessons as well. So yeah, so we do awesome stuff in the Celtic Collective. So today we're giving you a little taste of our craziness. Are you ready? You ready to teach?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I think so.
Okay, so you guys all should, if you've had a chance, and if not, we're going to walk you through how to draw this too. And I'm going to get rid of our amazing faces. I know you're sad. I know you're so sad right now.
You don't want to see my face.
But we are going to both be drawing this. Oh, I'm going to make mine a little brighter. Brighter.
Excuse me while I flip. To get it so that it's the right way round for everyone. Because I realized that it was looking the wrong way round.
Yes. Oh, you just noticed my monobrow now, Arlene? I worked really hard on that monobrow just for you. So you can also so this is at awesomeartschool.com if you want to go and grab it real quick. You can also feel free to transfer this, but I love a good drawing lesson, so I'm definitely going to be drawing. So I'm using a bowl. Oh,
so
yeah.
Look at that.
We're bowl twinsies.
I think we've got the same bowl.
And Lucy's from Scotland, by the way, which is why she has a really cool accent.
I have a silly voice.
You don't have a silly voice. Okay, so step 1, grab a bowl and trace that sucker. Yeah. One and done. I have to scoot my chair
I'm
over.
just going to apologize slightly now for the darkness of mine, because it is currently 6:10 in the evening in Scotland, and it's a little bit dark outside. Dark and spooky.
It's totally fine. So I feel like I'm going to, my lighting is almost too bright that I can't see as well. That's actually better. Okay. Now we're even. Okay. So step 1 is we need to draw the cat. Now, please don't beat yourself up on their drawing. I was looking at mine last night and I was like, oh, the head is too small. The body's too big. Seriously, Be nice to yourself. Just go for it. You can always erase. All right. So what?
Karen, do you want to head the drawing part, and I'll just draw along with you, and then we'll like
Sure.
divide up when it comes to the different media, because
Sure. Totally. I can do
I
that.
don't think people need to hear. My drawing will be the same as your drawing, so I'll just draw along.
Perfect. Okay. Yep, that works. All right. So what I like to do is I like to kind of size up where things are going to go. So I'm putting my pencil in the middle, and here's my reference. And I noticed that my cat's head is all to the left of that. So I'm going to start off to the left, and its ears are like, if you continue this circle, both ears like boop, boop, pop out on top. So I'm going to start to the left of center because I just identified that. And then I'm going to do 2 triangles, which are going to be the ears. And I usually use the word soft triangles. That means that we're not going to have a very like, like a hard triangle. It'd be like this. And so a soft triangle is when you have like a soft tip, because we're doing a little cat ear.
Yeah, they're not super pointy. And
yes.
Because Karen and I are on video, we tend to press a lot harder with our pencils
Yes.
than you probably would want to when you're drawing along. And we just do that so it shows up
Yep.
on the camera. So we've got, have you got a black wing there? No, I'm using a black wing
No,
because
I'm using just a cheapy mechanical pencil.
it's super dark, and I'm not very good at pressing dark with my pencils. I'm like a go lightly kind of person. So I'm trying my hardest to do dark so that you can see what I'm doing, which
Yeah,
is why I chose the black wing, because it's nice and super dark.
that's perfect. So I literally have like a letter M. Oh, you're mirrored, Lucy. I just
Um,
realized.
I unmirrored it.
Maybe you need to keep it on mirrored because it looks like you're drawing with your left hand.
Oh,
So I'm gonna go.
that's so weird because I
I
just
know.
flipped.
All right.
Is
I'm
that
gonna
better?
keep. Yes, that's good.
Can the people tell us in the comments? Because when
No, these.
I'm looking at that, it's looking mirrored to me.
When I'm looking at it, it's looking correct.
That's so bizarre. This is my right hand.
Yeah,
Wait,
I am. I love you, but I got to keep teaching
okay.
because you keep interrupting us. You're so rude, Lucy.
I want to
Okay,
get it right for everyone.
I just have to say, Lucy and I tease each other all the time, and we are totally kidding. We are totally kidding. So just so you know, that's just our shebang. Okay,
Okay.
I'm going.
It looks like it's fine for everyone else. I just wanted to check because it's mirrored for me, which is
Yeah,
totally messing with my head.
that is super weird. Okay, so we have our little M, which are little cat ears up here, and then the back side of the head is going to come out a little bit, just almost parallel to the circle for a little bit, and then we're going to come almost vertical, really, to the side, the back side. And then like a third of the way down the circle, we're gonna start angling that in a little bit. And then we're just gonna make it a soft little curve all the way down to the bottom where the little cat paw is just little
Super cute little paws.
like a little cartoon boop at the bottom. And then we're just going to give that leg a little thickness, and we're just going to come up a little bit, and we're going to make another like triangle shape right there. So a little baby triangle, and then we're going to do another cute, adorable little baby boop paw right there. And then I'm just going to make actually like a straight line, which is just the bottom of the cat, to about, just so they're kind of centered, like here's the paw, and also I'll stop it so it's kind of like the butt and the front leg are centered. And then I'm going to start reversing that up. I'm going to come up, and I'm almost doing like a parallel line to the side of my circle for a minute, actually. So here's my circle. So I'm going to actually kind of parallel those. And I was kind of laughing to myself. I was drawing this yesterday because I was like, if it's a fat cat, it could come out really far. You can make a fat cat. You can have a skinny cat. So don't worry about this at all because the cats are like people and they come in all different, shapes and sizes. And I'm just leaving a little spot for the face. Now, yesterday I did my face too small, so I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger today. So I'm coming back up here to my little M that I started, and I'm gonna get my eraser going. I'm gonna start with a little hook, and that's gonna be the start of the profile, and it's just a series of really soft curved lines. So we're gonna start by doing a soft curved line down a little bit, which is just the top. Zoom in.
I love the nose on this cat.
I know, it's
so
adorable.
Cute.
Like a little button. So we have one line, and then there's this little tiny like tick, which is like just a little brow. And then we're going to do another little swish, which is the top of the nose. And this one does have this adorable little button nose. So we kind of go swish out, and then the nose goes boop at the end of it. And then literally 2 more lines and we are done. And then we're going to do a little roundabout for the chin. And then we're just going to connect that up with the back. And when you're done, what I like to do is zoom out again and just make sure I have the proportion right. And then when I'm happy with that, I'll add the tail at the end. So a couple of housekeeping items. I'm going to erase this part of the ears so that my circle isn't going through the ears anymore. Elsie says she has a 20-pound cat, so definitely a fat cat. Yeah, so hers would go, whoa, way over here. And I'm going to erase my little guide.
Elsie was my grandmother's name. I love it.
Well, that's weird because Elsa was my grandmother's name.
Oh, really?
Yeah. How weird is that? All right. So, yeah, I mean, the reference has some like bumps in here, which you can add or not. Depends on how fussy you want to be. I am not fussy pretty much ever.
Really?
I'm the queen of good enough.
I'm the fussy one.
And then when you're happy with the body, we're going to just put a tail on. So I'm going to start from its back. So I'm going to kind of continue on with the back, and then I'm going to do a little curve following along the reference for curve out. And then it gets some thickness. I actually have a black cat as well. So Zoe, this is for you, girlfriend, in your honor. And then you can make that tail as swishy as you want and can, by all means, get creative. If you can have it going up, you don't have to have it going down if you don't want to. There's all sorts of things we can do. But does anyone have any questions up until that point? What are you doing for time? Where's my time ticker? I have no idea what time it is. Oh, wow, we are doing so good. Yes. I know we miss Tippy. Tippy is living her best life. Here, I'm going to add us to the stage real quick. Oh, I got us backwards. Let me add us again and see if it... Oh, now we're good. Okay. In case you hadn't checked out our amazing costumes for Halloween, Wanda's cat looks like a wolf right now. All right, we're going to give everyone 2 minutes to catch up. And
there's nothing wrong with wolves.
There's nothing wrong with wolves. It is so true. If anyone has any questions or you need a minute or you just haven't checked out my unibrow yet, now you can take the time to do so, and then we will start the coloring process. And I'm going to use a very English word right now and say I was very chuffed the way that mine came out last night, because when I was doing it, I was like, I don't know that we can actually even do this in alcohol markers. And then I was so happy at the end.
I have an animal visitor.
Oh, hi, Miso. Oh my goodness.
Hi.
Oh, he's so cute. Maggie is dead asleep behind me. You think I'm the love child of Huey Lewis and Billy Ray Cyrus? Does that mean I'm like like sisters with Miley Cyrus. I was listening to her in Pandora like all day today. Weird coincidence. And also, hi, Linda. Nice to see you. All right. Who is ready to get our color on? Let me know in the comments who's going to be doing markers with me today and who's going to be doing watercolors with Lucy today. What are you guys going to do? Tell me right now.
And if everyone's doing markers, just lie and say you're doing watercolors. So
I would think that more people would be doing watercolors today because markers, I think a lot of people are scared of markers. Don't be, because they're so
really
fun.
I'm a little bit scared of markers.
Yeah, see, everyone's doing watercolors. Oh, Christine's doing markers with me.
Oh my goodness.
See? I told you.
Yeah, one of each is cool because you could do one now while you're watching, and then you could do the other one
Yeah,
on
watch
the
again.
replay.
Exactly. Yes. Okay, cool. So yeah, mostly watercolor with a couple markers. Well, you're going to get 100% of both today. So it's a win-win situation. Yeah, and that's a good idea too. You can also just watch them now and then go back and do them each. Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, Lucy, do you want to talk about your supplies real quick and I'll do the same and then we'll dive in?
So I'm making it super simple. I am just using the terrain set from Prima, but I'm actually only needing to use a couple of colors from here. So I'm just using the purple, and then these, like, there's like a yellowy color, like a lovely orangey yellowy color, and then a darker kind of orangey color. So here's my practice. That's what I used for all these colors here. So it's super simple in terms of colors. But for the black cat, I actually took the black out of my Prima complexion set because this black is super black. I love it. It's such a nice dark black. So this is the black from the complexion set. That's what I'm using. You don't need to use black watercolor for your black if you want. You could use black ink or even do black. You could combine the two and do a watercolor background and a markers for the cat. And then for painting, I'm using my trusty old Polina Bright brushes. And I've just got two different sizes here, a smaller one and a larger one. And then I might dip into the rigger brush to get the smaller lines on the plants around the cat.
Hold on 1 second before you go. Can you use watercolor pencils, Lucy? Regina wants to know.
I think it might be tricky to get the saturation in color for the background because I'm going to do a wet on wet technique. So you could try it, but it's going to be a little bit different to how mine looks. Or even if you had ink tints or something, ink tints are quite saturated. But I'm not a huge fan of watercolor pencils, to be perfectly honest with you. I tend to use them maybe for sketching out, but not for doing a complete piece because I find it really hard to get really deep colors with them.
I do too.
Yeah. And so for the stars and all the little splotches on the cat, I'm probably going to use some gold acrylic ink. This is really hard for me to see. Hold this. This is by Liquitex. It's like a iridescent bright gold. But I did find in my practice it didn't show up super bright. So I've also just got a yellow Posca pen. So if you wanted to use that instead, that is probably just as great. And then for the little extra details, I'm just going to use a white Uniball Signal like this. And then I also use just a black gel pen to draw in the whiskers. And I also used that to fix any mistakes because I kind of mucked up the stars. So I actually just went back in with a black gel pen and tidied them up. Don't draw the eye just now. I'm actually going to do that just on top. So it's easier just to do that on top with I just used the yellow Posca pen.
And I did draw my eye in because the black in markers is so dark, and so I did paint pen on top, but you can see that my paint pen isn't as vibrant as like my alcohol markers. So I do prefer to draw the eye in, and this is the shape, and I'll just zoom in really quick. If you're doing markers with me and you want to draw the eye in, it's kind of an interesting shape. It's like a little bit curved here, and then this is really like straight, and then this is like a curved line here, and the pupil is kind of like right there. So it's kind of an interesting wonky shape. So if you want to draw it, if you're doing markers with me, that is how I'm doing it. And that's what I just put on my bill.
I forgot to say that for the acrylic ink, I actually added the little dots using a dotting tool, which is
that's fancy.
I'm like reversed on my own camera. It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's like a little dotter thing. But if you don't have one of those, don't worry. You can just use a small paintbrush, or you could even use like the end of your paintbrush to get little dots on. But I just find this is super, super handy for doing dots. So I'm using one of those.
Yep.
April's asking whether acrylics or whether paints. I would say any kind of gold paint. You could use gold gouache, gold acrylic, a gold paint pan. Anything like that is good to use for this. It's just that this is what I had at hand.
I should have done that. All right. And what paper are you working on?
I am just using a cheap, because I'm a cheapskate, a cheap watercolor 300 GSM watercolor piece of paper. It's just a student grade one.
Okay. Wendy, the eye is placed in the cat's face, and you can also the reference and all the supplies are available for download if you want to quick, like, even if you just look at it on your phone can be helpful while you're drawing. And you can get them all at awesomeartschool.com, just so you know. But yeah, that the placement is right in this up front area. I think I made mine a lot bigger today than yesterday, but it's up here in the face. And that's for Wendy. Hi, Wendy. Awesome.
What are you using, Karen?
So I am using all alcohol markers, and then just for the details at the end, I'm using 2 paint markers. So if you guys are using alcohol markers with me, I use just like any brand. I use these the vast majority of these are like 50 cents. And then I have some Copics in here, which are like $8. I just look for the right color. So it's super important when you're working to just swatch. I just take time to swatch. And you really can do that with any art supply, but markers are particularly hard to tell what actual color the ink is until you swatch. So I always like swatch a whole mess of them, and then I identify the ones I'm going to use in my project. So today I just have a mess of, honestly, Ohuhu, Artbeak, and Copics, which is exactly what I put on the supplies list sheet. But most of these are Artbeak, and those are the cheapest 50-cent markers you can get, and I love them. They're awesome. I also just put, if you are buying alcohol markers for the first time, I do, and this is also on my sheet, just look for something with a brush nib because it really makes a huge difference. Alcohol markers, even though they're markers, are actually very painterly. It's a very painterly medium, despite what you might think. And having that brush nib really, especially for a project like this, when we're trying to get it to look like watercolors, you would never be able to get that with a chisel nib. It's all the beauty of the brush nib. So, but these are super cheap. So I just have a range of the same colors that are in the reference. So I just swatched until I found some that were like a yellow ochre, some that were that kind of beige, some that were you know, a couple purples and pinks and one blue, and that was it. So this is my pile. And then I do have black, and then I just have some grays. The grays was my cheat for making this kind of look like watercolor, which I didn't think I'd be able to do, but I've actually came out okay. And then for the very last little details, I use a Posca pen. Again, markers are actually the awesome thing about them. My hair is really distracting. The awesome thing about them is that like the brands actually don't matter for both. So also Artbeak also sent me these recently. This is a brush paint pen.
Oh, wow.
I used them for the first time last night doing this, and these are lovely.
Oh,
They have
I'd love to get my hands on some of those. That sounds amazing.
actual brush nips,
I
and they're
have to try
pens.
them.
The only downside to these is to get the inks to flow. You can see I have like ink all up in my thumbnails. You have to depress, just like you would a normal paint pen, you have to depress this part to get the ink flowing, but you wouldn't want to smash down the nib
Oh,
like you would
yeah.
a regular nib because it would just mash those
Yeah,
poor
yeah, yeah.
bristles. So I had to sacrifice my thumbnail to get that ink flowing, but it was well worth it because I really like those. So that's it. So just 2
Oh,
paint pens.
sacrificing for your art.
What's that? Oh,
Sacrificing for your art.
always. Hashtag worth it. All right. So yeah, so I'm just color matching. So regardless of what kind of markers, what brand, doesn't matter. You just want to in this case, I was just trying to match the reference, but you can also go a whole different way with the background colors. You don't even have to do them the same. So if you don't have the same exact colors, don't sweat it. Get creative. You could have the whole background that's like pink would be a freaking amazing, like pink and purple, or like blue and green or whatever. So
Yeah,
be
I'm
creative.
gonna say the same thing with the watercolors. You don't need to use I didn't even like exactly color match. I just color matched as much as I could, and I didn't actually end up using any blue in mine. I just used the purples and the yellows. But you could totally do like, yeah, you could do any color background. So you don't need to have the terrain set like I've got. You don't need to have the same colors of watercolor. You could just use whatever takes your fancy.
Yes, that's good. I'm just going to take this question. Tasha, I don't know what regular marker means. There's so many kinds of markers. If you can be more specific with your question, I'm happy to answer that for you. If they're not alcohol markers, I would not add alcohol to try to fancy it up. I think it's just too complicated. I would just skip it in this case. But you can let me know what kind of markers you're talking about. And then Patricia, do not worry about the Artbeak. If you go onto any Amazon store in any country around the world and just type in alcohol markers, you're going to get super cheap alternatives. The brand literally does not matter. The only thing that matters is getting that brush nib. But do not worry about Artbeak or not Artbeak. Doesn't matter. Debbie, you want to share with a friend, just click the share button under the video and then you can share it with anyone that you love. Hi, Sean, or hi, kids, whoever that is. Hi, guys. Kids just coming home from school. Trisha, before I begin, yes, these last ones are both acrylic paint. Yes. And I do the acrylic paint on top of the alcohol markers because you can't really, alcohol markers aren't opaque, so they wouldn't layer like that, but you can put acrylic paint markers on top of alcohol markers and they will show up. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Okay, let's dive in. And this
You ready?
I'm ready. I
Are
think
you
I
guys
got all
ready?
Oh, Blick Studio markers. Tasha, I believe those are alcohol markers. So you're already good to go, my friend. All right. Let's dive in. I'm going to get rid of our faces. Okay.
Phew!
Woo! Because my unibrow was distracting myself as well. All right. And you're starting with the background, right? So am I.
I am starting with the background.
Yeah, I think we should do them at the same time.
are we gonna just dive in and go? Will I start explaining mine?
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna do a wet on wet wash for my background. So what I'm gonna do first of all is I'm actually gonna mix up some colors in my palette first. So I'm just gonna put them here so that you can see what I'm doing. And I'm doing that so that once I have my paper wet, I am ready to go and I don't have to like hang around. So I'm not doing the black just now. I'm just doing the purple and the yellows and the browns. So I'm just going to take a good amount of water.
Oh, Donna wants to know if gouache will work over alcohol markers. I wouldn't mix those, Donna, because you need different paper. Well, what do you think? I'll let you answer that. I guess you could. It's a strange.
I would just do the paint pan. I think it would be easier. Yeah.
I think Donna's obsessed with her gouache right now, and I love it so much. Donna, your little
I
your
know.
mushrooms are adorable.
I would probably just do the paint pan. You could try it and see. It's always worth an experiment.
Oh.
Right. I'm mixing up some of the yellow, and then I'm going to do one over here as well, which is the darker one.
And while Lucy is mixing up her, I'm going in with my same exact yellow that Lucy is doing. I'm going to start putting in the darker yellow. So there's this real patchy effect. And so I'm going to start with those, and I'm going to literally just add that patchiness here too.
Yeah. And I'm just going to quickly, because I should have done it earlier and didn't, clean the green off this part of my palette so that it doesn't mess with my purple.
And I'm working on Bristol paper, and paper is kind of everything with alcohol markers. So if you're following me and doing markers today, please be sure you're working on cardstock or Bristol, or you're going to be not happy at the results. And I hate to say that, but it's for your own safety.
And it's kind of the same with watercolor in a way, in that like you'll get so much better results if you use 300 GSM, or that's 140 pound paper. But the make doesn't matter quite so much. Obviously, there are better makes of watercolor paper, but this is just a cheap one that I'm using here. So, okay, I'm just going to put this out of the way. And I already got a splotch because I'm being messy, but it doesn't matter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to wet my paper. But because the cat splits this into two, I can actually do it in two halves. And because I'm right-handed, I'm going to do the left-hand one first so that my hand isn't stretching over the wet paint. So I've got a clean brush, and I'm just going to wet that whole part of that paper up to the cat. So I'm not putting water on the cat. I'm just putting it on the paper round the cat. The bit of the moon round the cat.
Amy,
Just where the foot is.
this is yellow. I'm using literally yellow from Ohuhu right now. Nothing fancy about it.
And then while that is still wet, I'm going to start off with this yellow, and I'm just going to drop it in. And by dropping it in, it's kind of squidging out, and it's going to make nice effects rather than just a plain color.
And see how Lucy is adding the light over her dark? I'm doing the same exact thing. So I just did yellow straight up marker, and now I'm going in with another shade of yellow, and I'm going to just honestly scribbling this all around.
So I started putting some of the orange, this brownie orange. These colors in this train set are absolutely gorgeous. And the nice thing about the Prima sets is that they I feel like they've kind of curated them so that the colors just blend nicely and
Mhm.
go together nicely, because this purple, you'll see when I start to add this purple in, like normally if you put a purple next to a yellow, it could end up looking really disgusting
Mhm.
and like muddy, but it kind of becomes lovely browns and goldens. So I'm just dropping the paint. I'm not brushing the paint. I'm just dropping it so that
Oh.
it kind of gives that, Karen's trying to make the same kind of effect with the alcohol markers, where it's
Mhm.
not a flat color. And I'm doing the same thing. Now, before I move on to the right hand side, I'm washing out my brush, and then I'm just gonna take it so it's not super, super wet. And I'm actually gonna just drop some water on to the paint like this, and it kind of goes woo and comes out, and that's giving a cool texture as well.
Sorry, what was that sound?
A woo.
Ooh. Oh, yes. I can't find the marker color that I was using
You
yesterday.
can always go back in and drop in a little bit more color.
I'll
So I'm
just
dropping in a little of the purple into where the orange was, and it's kind of coming out and squidging out. And then I actually want to have a few dots. So I'm going to take my brush, and I'm going to make sure it's got some yellow paint on it, and then I'm just going to take it like this, and I'm going to tap it so it's got some squidges, some dots of paint that come out. You could do the same with some purple. I'm trying not to get this over my laptop. That would not be a good thing.
You're flying way faster than me, girlfriend.
Well, mine's is going to take a little while to dry because it's watercolor. So,
True. Okay.
right. So I am going to do the bottom, but I'm going to come back in and do this bit first. So I'm just going to repeat myself. So I've washed out my brush. And the reason why I keep washing my brush out is that I want clean water here, but also I don't want these colors to mix in completely. I want them to stay kind of separate. So every time I change color, I'm washing my brush out so that the yellow and the purple don't mix on my palette. Um, I think that I'm trying to get this paint in the shot and it's not showing. Do you guys need to see my palette? Is that annoying for you?
Maybe you can put it on the right, maybe?
Well, yeah, I find it really hard to work that way, but I'll try.
So I'm just going to talk for 2 seconds in case people are waiting to
Oh,
see.
that's a bit better.
Yeah. So what I'm doing to create a watercolor effect look is I'm using really definitive circular marks.
Oh, measles.
Oh, sorry.
That was just Maggie.
Time when everyone was off.
Just Maggie.
So I'm using the circular strokes, and this will help to like re-wet and blend these colors together. So that yellow is like really, really strong, and this is a light yellow, which is not as strong. So I want them to try to get them to blend. So I actually do a few layers, and I'm using these small circular strokes.
Sorry.
You're okay. These small circular strokes to kind of get them to blend. So I'm just using that strong yellow, and then these are just lighter yellows. That's all this is. And I'm going over them like, probably 4 times. And as you can see, it kind of like knocks back that bright yellow. And that's why these alcohol markers are really quite painterly. Like in order to get that effect, you need to be working on Bristol, and you need to be doing a couple layers and doing these little circular marks. And this is very different for those my students that are here that do faces with me, tend to do rather streaky straight things, and this is quite different. And then so Lucy's started incorporating those other colors. So we are going to do the same. So I'm going to start by using just this next color, which is a sand. This is Sand by Artbeak, which is honestly a very much like a flesh color. And I'm going to use my lovely nib, my brush nib, and I'm going to kind of like dot it. You kind of like just do some almost like polka dots or small swirls to get that started as well. And I know it looks really harsh against the lovely light color that we have already, but when you keep going over and over and doing the layers over and over again with the lighter colors, it all really does start blending together. You just need to have a little faith and do lots of layers. So I'm doing these little tiny squiggle circles to start to get these other colors incorporated so I can get that really mottled look that's so easy to get with watercolors. It's a little harder with markers, but it's not that hard. The secret is the layers and keeping it all nice and wet. So now I have that. It looks really weird. So I need to go back with one of my lighter yellows again and really saturate. Again, lots of swirls. And in a minute, I'm going to start adding the pink the way that Lucy is right now.
So good. Right. While mine is drying, I do want to do some paint down here, but I'm also going to paint in that kind of galaxy middle bit of the cat. So I'm just going to do that in the same way. I'm just going to wet this middle bit. You don't want to have too much water. You don't want to be puddles of water. You want it just to be kind of glistening. And then I'm just going to add in and just paint the same way that I did here in this middle bit of the cat. So I'm just dropping in those colors and letting them kind of bleed out and do their thing. And if you find that they're not bleeding out enough, it might be that your paper started to dry a little bit. Then you can just take some plain water and go back in and then just drop in the water and that'll sort of spread everything out. Can you see how that's spreading? It's spreading it all out. And if you want to dry this with a heat gun so that you speed up the process, then you can. I'm going to see how it goes. I probably will need to take my heat gun out, so apologies for the noise in advance, just so that I can paint my cat.
I can mute you while you do that.
Oh, yes, I can. So I'm just going to take my wet brush and I'm just spreading that out just a little bit just to soften it up.
And I'm starting to add the other colors now, and I'm working pretty quickly. Again, it's almost like working with paint where I'm working actually rather quickly because I do want the pigments to kind of marry together, and that works the best when they're still nice and wet. So again, I'm just keeping on working in these circular motions. And it's nice and juicy. Alcohol markers are lovely and juicy. And that was a pale lilac. There's just like just a bare little hint of blue up here. And again, I'm following my reference. There's just this weird area of blue kind of out of nowhere. So I'm just doing little polka dots up here. And what other, I'm following this very literally. So I just put in some blue. I put in some pink, which makes it look peachy, but that's okay. So I'm going to go in now with the purple. See how purpley that is? And now I have two shades of purple. I have a light one, which is good because it's a little scary going in with new colors. And again, I'm keeping that circular motion going. And then I have a really dark purple also. I thought I had another one. Let me check my... No, that really is. And we have this really, really dark one also. which again, I'm just mix and matching my brands. Doesn't matter. All alcohol inks are interchangeable with one another. Only drawing a straight line just to make sure I don't go out of the lines. And I'm still using these swirly strokes, layering them just like paint. So I put the dark ones in, and then I go always return to my light colors to do all my blending work for me. So in alcohol markers, the markers are the kind of equivalent to the water. So in watercolors, the water is what marries them, and in alcohol ink, it's the different colors that do that.
I see some questions. Can I answer them quickly?
Yes, absolutely.
So Christy was just asking about Lucy's Art Lab, if it's still open. Yes, of course it is. You can find it by going to the Art Lab Association, and that's just my class that I do without Karen, and it's mostly watercolor and gouache. And yes, it is still open. This one, do you use watercolor paper blocks? My paper always buckles no matter what I try to do to avoid that. I use a block sometimes. I do that if I'm doing a painting that I'm super precious about not getting buckling. But if I'm doing like a practice or just a painting for fun, I don't mind a little bit of buckling. But here's a few things that you can do to help. So, one thing is that if you then, after you've finished your whole painting, like you finished it completely, if you turn it over and spray it using a spray bottle, like something like this, on the back with water, and then put it underneath some heavy books and let it dry, the water from the back will help the painting from the front unbuckle. It kind of evens it out, so you can do that to help. Also, sometimes when you dry it with a heat gun, it kind of smooths everything out a little bit, but I do use blocks sometimes. There's a couple more. I think that was it. So I am just, while Karen's carrying on with that, I'm just going to carry on with mine. I dried it with a heat gun. And if you notice with watercolors, sometimes it dries lighter than it first looks. So you might want to go back in and darken bits up. I still haven't done my splodges on this side, so I'm just going to do them quickly. And then actually, I don't mind that some of the splodges are going on to the circle because it looks better that way. It's just making it a little bit more interesting. And then I'm going to take, I need to do this bit down here. So I'm not going to do wet on wet for this. I'm going to do wet on dry. So I've got a bit more control. So I'm just going to take, start off with my purple. And I'm just mixing a little bit more up. And then I'm just going to start by painting in. Oh, I need a bit more pigment in there. Can you see it wasn't quite saturated enough? And I'm just using my brush to get this in nice and neat. So the tip of my brush, but you can always neaten it up when you put your black cat on top. And then I'm just going to sort of squidge around. I'm almost doing the same movement with my brush that Karen's doing with her alcohol markers. So I'm almost doing the same kind of thing. I'm sort of squidging out and like doing these little squidgy movements and just being quite free, which kind of come hard for me. I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to my paintings. And then I'm just going to add in the other two colors and let them kind of mix on the page a little bit. So I'm sort of just splodging them on. And I want it to be a little bit darker than this. So I'm actually going to start introducing some of the black. So I'm just going to take my black. And I'm over here where I've got a bit more room. I'm going to mix that into my purple so I make a dark purple color.
Yeah, I just want to answer a really quick question. Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. Karen Pritchard was asking if you can add a little water to help spread the colors. So alcohol markers don't react at all to water. They're like invisible to one another. So what we use to spread is the other markers. So what happens is the wet, juicy alcohol solution and pigments. I'm going to keep going over these, and that will activate the alcohol and the pigments underneath. And so we use alcohol marker ink to activate the other alcohol marker ink, if that makes sense. That's a great question.
That's a great question. I didn't know that.
Tasha was asking if you can move yours up a little bit, Lucy.
Oh, mine? Yeah. Is that better? I could even zoom out a little bit if it helps. I just don't want to zoom out too much so that you can't see. Is that better, everyone? It's maybe a little bit easier to see everything. So what I did there while Karen was answering that question was I just took the black and I mixed it in with the purple to make a darker one. And then I dropped it because this paint was already wet. I just dropped it in around the bottom of the cat, and it's given that sort of shadow without it being too definite. So I'm going to stop playing with mine now. It is a little bit easy to get carried away when you're painting and keep on putting things on. But sometimes it's good to go, right, I'm going to stop. So I just dipped in some yellow, and then I'm going to stop, and I'm going to let that whole thing dry. I'll probably use my heat gun, and then I'll be ready to come back with the black paint. So I'll wait until Karen's ready. Get a move on, lady. I'm only joking. You're so slow.
I am so loving this. I'm so happy I did it last night. I'm so happy I get to come back and do it again. So yeah, so you probably just, I don't, if you, for my marker followers, I just basically did like a whole pass of bright colors, and then I went in with my light yellow and I put it everywhere again. So my paper gets pretty like saturated and wet because I'm adding so many layers. But it is really truly is like paint, and you need all those layers to reactivate the ones underneath, and that's what gets them all blended. So I'm now adding, and it's kind of scary. So I do have like 2 shades of pink, and then I have 2 shades of purple, and I really have 2 shades of yellow. So that way I can kind of move bolder in increments, and it's not quite so terrifying, but it also helps layering and it helps blending. So now I'm going in for the first time with my real dark magenta. And again, I'm just continuing to squiggle wiggle this everywhere. I'm constantly looking at my reference so I know where to put the colors. You can also go rogue and just do whatever you want, but I like following a reference. It gives me a little security and direction so I know what to do and where to go. But they really start all blending together by the end of it. It's pretty neat. But it's just a little bit slower process than the watercolors. Surprised I even like it because I like everything to be fast.
So good though.
Yeah, it goes through a pretty like elaborate ugly stage, but it does eventually come all together. Now I'm gonna go in with my super dark purple, because there's a really dark purple in here, and it's kind of all around this little middle galaxy section. I see a lot of really dark. Now, I do have to say my scan copy is pretty shitty. It's probably a lot more vibrant than what I actually am looking at, but I'm keeping everything nice and I was going to say squidgy. I don't know what the word is, but just keep using these very loose circular motions.
I'm going to be back in 2 seconds.
Sounds good. So here's my reference. So I see this is like a concentrated dark purple. So I'm kind of doing that here. Then there's some more here. So I'm going to pop that. There's like a blob of it here. And also, it's also reassuring that this is also the background. These like vines and flowers are actually going to be much more in the foreground. So it's, we're just making background effects. So it doesn't actually have to be perfect. So you don't have to kill yourself on this part, to be honest. If it's not perfect or you're not loving it, the cat is the main character. And I see some more blue in here, purple. But yeah, it's a little bit of a longer process to get all these colors down and blended on our paper. And then again, once I'm finished with my bold dark ones, I'm going to go back to my lighter shades and do another round of blending. Blending, 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 blending. And there's some dark purples over here. Tanya asks, can you use the clear blending solution on a brush to soften some of the darker blobs? I don't find that the clear blending solution is effective at all. If I'm blending colors, I want to have pigment in both the markers because that's what blends the colors. Like I want my yellow and this sand to blend together. If I'm just using a clear alcohol solution with no pigments, I'm just getting them wet. I want my colors to blend. I don't want just to make it wetter. Does that make sense? So I never use the clear blender. I always use two colors together to blend. It's a great question. Oh shit. And I just got water all over my reference, which is now soaking wet. Speaking of water. And then I realized like, oh, there's the sand color a bunch in here that I
painting to your right towards the paint. Is that better? While you're doing that, Karen, I'm actually going to just, now that this is dry, because I always like to take a second look when my watercolors is dry. Yes. And it also looks really cool if you then do a little bit of glazing on top where the colors don't blend. I'm actually just going to be a little bit fast and loose and random. I'm going to take my smaller watercolor brush. This is just the size 0, so it's not too small. It's the smallest of the Polina Bright ones, and it just gives me a little bit more control. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to randomly kind of just put some extra little bits of paint just to give a little bit of an extra depth to it. So little dashes and marks, like not too many of them. And I can just do that while you're doing the last bit of your markers.
I'm just blending my little heart out.
I know, you're working so hard. I'm amazed that for once, I am like doing a quicker project than
right?
you.
This is probably the quietest I've ever been, ever.
Normally the other way around.
No, I'm into it, man. It's like my happy place. I'm in my flow state.
It's a little bit, what you're doing is a little bit like kind of mindfulness meditation because it looks so relaxing.
It's so relaxing. I'm not gonna lie. So it feels great. I needed it. Although my wig is making my head really hot.
My witchy hat arrived. I've got it on.
Oh my god, you have to show.
Will I put my screen up?
Yes. Oh, it's so cute. That's adorable. You wear that all year round.
I know. I know. Look
That
how
is
cute it is.
so cute. That is freaking adorable. So freaking cute. All right. Now I'm going with dark. I'm going in with light purple everywhere.
Try
Light
not to fiddle
purple.
too much. It won't be a good idea to fiddle too much.
Yeah.
Just
Very easy too with watercolors, but less is more. That was the
less
big
is definitely more.
takeaway on our retreat was like, don't stop, like brush and then lift your hand and stop.
Yes. No, because actually with
Less, less.
watercolors, sometimes the more you fiddle around, the more you just end up ruining the surface and ruining the effects. You want quite a light touch with your watercolors. I do love doing these splashy marks though.
Yep.
But again, less is more with those.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
So if you notice, all of my original layers are really faint now. They're like super,
Looks
the,
amazing, Karen.
all the solutions. It's still a bit of a train wreck, but it just takes a minute to like get it all working together. And also alcohol markers are a lot like watercolors in that they lighten when they dry, especially
Yeah.
when you layer and re-wet them over and over. Like mine will get lighter and lighter. It's super weird because you just think like, well, I'm putting these dark colors on. Why? What is going on? But actually the alcohol solution will end up lightening them in the re-wetting process. So it's super interesting. I know this looks like a fun hot mess, doesn't it? But it'll get there. All right. So what I think I'm gonna do is take a break. And again, I'm taking turns blending with my different colors. So I like blended with the yellow, then I blended with the light purple. Now I'm blending with the pink. And all those different variations help. And what I was saying while you were getting your hat, Lucy, was like oh no, I forgot what I was gonna say because I'm lost in the flow. Again, it left my brain. I'm so absorbed. It feels
I
so good.
know that happens to me on a
I'm like,
regular.
what? I have no brain cells.
It is like the Hat in the Woodland Witch. That's why I liked it. I have to admit, it's like £8 or something on Amazon.
So cute.
Such a bargain.
All right, I'm gonna start with my cat. So I'm gonna. This is like what my paper's like buckled because I have so many layers. So I'm gonna let that all kind of fuse together, and then I'm gonna take a break and I'm going to start my cat. So I'm just using a
Okay.
black alcohol marker.
Oh, well, I'm gonna get the paint ready for my cat as well then. So I'm actually gonna do the same thing that I did with my watercolors for the background, where I'm gonna mix up the paint first so that when I start painting, I am ready to go. So I'm actually gonna just take a paper towel and clean this off so that I've got a free space. And I wouldn't normally, sorry, I totally interrupted you, Karen.
Did it? Lost in my
I
cat.
wouldn't normally get rid of this paint because that's like a waste. That's still watercolor paint that you can use. But because we're teaching and it's easier to see with like a clear palette, that's why I do it. So if I was you guys, I probably would just use another bit of a palette. And I'm going to mix up a nice good amount. Let's get my water in the best place. So I don't want to be putting my hand
Ooh.
over here all the time. That's stupid, idiotic thing to do when you're painting with watercolors. And I'm going to mix up a nice good amount of black. And this black from the complexion set is just so wonderful because it's so dark.
Someone was asking, I just lost it. Oh, if the dark colors don't ruin the tips of the light colors, they don't. There's actually zero interaction. So this is the one I was using to blend. There's nothing on my tip at all. So no, it doesn't. And I don't know if you guys saw, but I like went out of the lines on my cat. So now I'm just making that part of the design, and I'm making little pokey hairs so that it looks like it was on purpose. I mess up all the time.
I love making things look like they're on purpose when they're a mistake. Right.
You have to learn how to go with the flow because I make mistakes in every project.
So I'm going to get myself ready by having a second brush that is got just water on it. So I've got my my paintbrush with the paint and my paintbrush with the water. And I'm just going to start at the top of the cat, and I'm just going to paint in. And I'm not doing the little fluffy hair strokes at the edge of him yet because that's too fiddly. You can actually just go back in with like a gel pen or something and add them, or even your small watercolor paintbrush afterwards when this bit is dry. But at the moment, I'm just going to paint in the main shape of the cat. And if you see what I'm doing is I'm working from top to bottom, and I'm just kind of pushing the paint down with my brush so that I get a fairly nice, even brush stroke. But because this cat has got that kind of galaxy in the middle, I honestly would not stress about it too much if you don't get like a flat painting for the black. If you want to make your black super, super, super flat, then I think you could do the black on top with markers. It's probably easier. But
like paint markers, you mean?
yeah, or even the markers you're using. Could you do them?
On watercolor?
Well, but I haven't painted on watercolor here. It's just paper.
Oh, I wasn't actually listening.
Karen Campbell! Oh my gosh!
I'm literally living my best life in my flow state on my cat right now. I'm not sorry about it either. I'm having so much fun with my cat.
I meant like if you wanted to do a super dark black cat and you were stressing about getting the watercolors nice and dark, you could do the background with watercolors, and then you could just use markers to do the black.
Yeah, for sure you can. Yes.
Now, because I don't want a straight flat line here, what I'm going to do is I'm armed and ready with my second wet brush. So I'm just going to paint around this. And you don't want to wait too long. So I'm not going to go all the way down. And then I'm just going to take my wet brush and I'm just going to spread this in a little bit. And it will go over the purple and become grey, but that's okay. And I will get some cauliflower blooms, whatever you call them. That's where your paint goes back in on itself. And some people hate getting those, but actually, I think they're kind of beautiful.
No, I do too. All right, I'm just going to discuss this. What looks like a train wreck on my paper is actually very well thought out way to get the galaxy center, which is this result that we're looking for. So if you noticed, if you look at the reference, you can see like the brightest areas that are not black are there's sort of this sand color. It's sort of like this same kind of yellow here. Then there's some magenta, and then it kind of segues out to that deep purple. So I kind of just like chucked that approximately on my cat. And then, of course, I'm going in with black, which is a way big, stark contrast to what those other colors are. So how do we get that transition? And Lucy's working on that same transition at the same time. And the solution for alcohol markers is using shades of gray to like help that segue. So we have really stark black edges. So I have two different grays, and all alcohol marker brands usually have a gray scale set that are usually like from 0 to 10, 0 being the lightest, 10 being just a shade shy of black. So I'll go in with like a super dark gray. It's not black, but it's not gray either. And I can kind of put this in. So again, I'm looking closely at my reference. Okay.
You're looking a lot closer at the reference than I am.
I like the challenge of like getting it right. I like being creative too, but if
Yes,
we
I
give a
know.
reference, I'm trying to teach you how to get you there. So I'm going to put this darker gray, kind of like eke it in closer around the edges, because like this purple here is almost kind of black, but not exactly black. So I'm using a really, really dark gray instead. So as you can see, it's kind of like honing in on that. And then I can switch to a medium gray. This is a C5 Copic, but just any sort of medium gray, which will darken it, but it's not going to cover it all the way over the way that a black would. So you have this kind of like gradation. And again, I'm using these swirlies the whole time to get them all, because it is dark, but it's not like black. And I'm trying to get like this. I mean, this is a digital image, but it looks like watercolor. So we're trying to recreate this. And so doing these shades of gray is sort of our cheat.
So I'm just onto the tail, and I'm just going to sweep this round for the tail. And I probably will go back and fiddle with this some more, but um, sometimes with watercolor, what's really handy is to leave things rather than fiddling with them. And then once they're dry, you can go back in and glaze more on top, because the more you fiddle, the more it can get a little bit messed up. Look at the way that I'm using the tip of my brush at the end just to get this kind of the little hairs on the tail.
Ooh. Now I'm using this dark purple, kind of chucking that in as well to see if I can get that to show. And then you can blend. Again, you can blend with any of your lighter colors. So I'm going to blend with a light purple and see what that looks like. And Tanya Lee, I see your comment. You're adorable. And I'm glad. She has a ton of my books and is very happy that I said her name and answered your question. We try to answer all questions. We kind of live for this. We live for having fun together, and we live for art. So the more the merrier. So yay, I'm so happy you're here.
Right. This, I don't know if you guys can see, because obviously with the camera and it being black paint, but because I put water, it kind of spread out. And so I was just putting in some more black just to darken that a little bit. But I'm just leaving it up here because it's quite nice and like flat. So I'm just going to leave it be. I'm going to follow my own advice. I'm going to leave it be and let it dry. And I'm aware that I didn't use exactly the same kind of bluishy purple that is in places in the reference. Karen's being a lot more exact with her colors than me, I think. But that was because I just wanted to stick with this one set and not confuse things. I think that
doesn't matter.
it looks all right. The way you could probably add in other purples if you've got them, but we're sticking with this one.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yes. And don't worry if you've got messy lines here, because we are going to put a whole bunch of little stars.
Oh,
And
that's
that,
what I was gonna say.
can you
I was
see
gonna
how
say,
it's a little?
Lucy. I was saying to them, you just made me remember, which is that it don't be so precious because this is all just the background.
Yeah.
And actually the front row goes to the cat and the really like the all the florals on the sides and the stars. So this all this stuff we've been working on is just the background, like which will actually fade quite a bit to the back once we put in the rest of our things. Don't you think?
Yes. Once we put all the little stars and all of those things, you're not going to see any slight parts of paint that have gone that you didn't like. I actually dropped water on my cat that I did in my practice and made a big splodge here, and it's really not a big deal.
No.
So I'm going to let mine dry while you finish yours off.
Yep. And you can see my what
It
used
looks
to be like
amazing.
is kind of like starting to come together. I'm
Yeah.
just switching the colors and layering, going light and then dark, and then light and then dark.
Tasha Watkins says, how are you blending between the middle colored cat and the black lines? Do you mean the middle part? So what I did was I took my second brush and I painted this black, and then while it was still wet, I took my second brush and I just blended it out to soften. It's not completely soft. There is actually some lines there where it's not blended brilliantly, but I'm just going to leave it because when I do the stars on top, you're not going to see. The other thing that you could do if you weren't so happy with that is once this has dried, you could then go back in with a little bit more black paint and just blend it a little bit more. In fact, I'm going to mute my mic and heat gun, and then I'll maybe show you how to do that.
All right, cool. So I am kind of, as you can see, this is sort of, it has blended quite a bit more and more and more. And same kind of this is all in sharp contrast to what that looked like when I first put that down. So now I'm going to kind of go around and like put my more or less finishing touches on this background and to get ready for the foreground, which is actually really like the leaves going off and all the stars and everything. So I'm returning to this original kind of ochre color because there's quite a bit of it still down here, which I have sort of something represented there, but it's not really quite the shade that I was looking for. So again, I'm just doing these like baby squiggles to kind of, again, we really were trying to mimic watercolor, which is a challenge in markers, but it's totally doable. We just have to do lots more layers than we normally would think to do. And so it's really as simple as that. So now I'm noticing that this color is also down in here a bit. And so I'm going to add it back down there. So it doesn't look exactly the same, but it looks pretty cool. I'm happy. And then this is like, good enough. We can pop some in here if we want to, but actually that part stays, according to the reference, that kind of stays. There's a bigger, like larger area of pink plume that I don't really have, but I'm not sure that I really care, to be honest, that much. We can add a little bit more. And then again, if you're always afraid that you've gone too far, you've done too much, you can always just go back with a lighter color and blends. And yes, choose a color. And then you can blend. And again, it will just knock it back some more. I think I'm missing some blue. There's actually a lot more blue in that reference.
Yeah, I didn't use any blue, but there is actually blue in the
Quite a
reference.
bit. I'm just gonna like polka dotted it. It is really pretty. I could also like kind of,
Blue in my set. I could stick a bit of blue in, but I'm not going to
it
bother.
kind of bothers me that it's only there though. Like I'm gonna maybe pop some over
Yeah.
here because it should be maybe in more than one place.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to take this purple again. Oh, that had black on it. Let's start off with the black, actually. And I'm just going to tidy up the blending here. So I'm just going to add some more black because, again, like I said before, when your watercolors dry, sometimes they go a bit light. This is super nice and dark here, but this went a little bit light just because I blended it out. And also, when you're mixing up your colors of your watercolors, uh, have a have a little experiment, a practice with your ratio of water to paint. So if you've got more pigment and less water, you're going to get a much darker color than if you add more water. The more water you add, the lighter it's going to be. So now I'm taking my second brush, which is just damp, and I'm just going to spread that and blend that into where the galaxy is. And I'm going to keep washing my brush out so that I don't get too much black in here. But this is actually a little bit too light. Can you see Karen's is a lot darker? So it's okay if I get some black in here. And then with that same second brush, I'm actually going to take some of the original purple and I'm just going to add that back in, and then that's going to soften those transitions as well.
If you are working on markers and you can kind of see, you can see the streaks.
Blue.
The best thing you can do is just do a second coat and go in the other direction. And that will usually be all you need to do to kind of obliterate that. Markers is so much more layering than you would think. But then after I do this, I'm actually ready for the details.
Yeah, the details are fairly quick to add as well, aren't they?
If you guys have any questions up into this point, this will be a
Yeah,
great
it's a big
point for us to like take a break and get you up to speed before we do the details, because then we'll be done pretty quick.
yeah. So if you notice, I didn't actually paint up here into the head. I just painted to here, and the fact that when I put stars on, it's just gonna hide any conspicuous marks between those two. And then again, I'm just going back in with my original colors, and I'm just taking them straight from the palette this time. And I'm just making this a little bit darker so that it's not quite such a light belly, a light galaxy, and the transition between the black and the colors is a lot softer now. So I've managed to just soften that up and make it not quite so obvious. I'm going to leave my cat just painted plain, but if you wanted, you could take the tip of your brush and just very carefully just add in a few little extra fur strokes.
Now you're just copying me.
What?
You're copying me
Are
now.
you doing the same thing, Karen Campbell?
You did that.
Oh my goodness, we great minds think alike.
We do. All right, before I get going on the details, I'm gonna delete my lines. I'm gonna erase my outline. Does anyone have any questions about markers? And this is a weird another thing. That's markers and watercolors are similar. Not only do they lighten as they dry, but once you put those mediums over graphite, you cannot erase them. They are like locked in for life. So like I had some markers right here, so I actually can't erase this little right there, which is super annoying. And the same thing happens with watercolors. So just a fun thing I have fun.
Yeah. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just gonna say, so oh good, I'm glad you like that blue. I know that I know markers they just do it for me. They're so satisfying.
Okay, I'm caving and I'm gonna stick a bit of blue.
And I'm gonna go back up and make sure I didn't miss any questions.
Oh, look at it. It does make a difference.
Yeah, it is. Oh, Michelle Owens is gonna join the Celtic Collective
Ooh,
today.
it's the best club ever.
It is the best club ever. I love that. And you can also join that at Awesome Art School, but not forever, just till Friday. I'm so ridiculously excited for the Kevin Keel
Oh, me too.
projects.
And I have to say, Karen, I had so much fun doing toned paper and black and white.
Right?
Yeah.
It's so satisfying.
Yeah. And do you know what the really fun thing is? Is is going out with your comfort zone of media
Yes.
and trying something new. It
Yes.
can actually sometimes give you like a second lease of
Yes,
life,
for
like
sure.
revitalize your interest
Yes.
and be like, oh, and then it kind of kickstarts you sometimes
Well, I
because
have to say, I totally agree because I've long been obsessed with tone paper, like forever, but I've never done it in this way where you're just using straight lines like that. I would never have dawned on me, or I never would think that I could do it
yeah,
with a bit of like, certainty. So the reason Lucy and I are talking about this is that we do, Denise, I just do a yellow. I do like the background yellow for the eye, is because in the Celtic Collective, we do months where we do deep dives on artists and we try to like learn exactly how they do what they do. Wow. So this one is coming up so we don't do it every month, but we have a different month every theme. We have a different theme every month. And then sometimes we do these artist deep dives. So we're doing Kevin Keel in November, and he does these amazing tone paper drawings. So this is based off of his, used with permission, and it was really mind bending. It was really so interesting. I never ever would have thought. And even when I was doing the lesson, I was like, no, I'm not going to do the cross hatching on her face. I'll probably just use like marker or whatever. And I didn't. I just like powered through, and I was like, my God, it's so cool to at least do it at least one time and
yeah,
try out someone else's style.
yeah.
So it's a lot of lessons.
We
Super
look at
fun.
lots of other artists in that club. It's super fun to look at how they get, where they get their inspiration from and how they have made their art. We look at some of the older artists,
Yes.
artists that aren't alive anymore,
Yes.
like Arthur Rackham and
Yes.
like
Yes. Yes.
traditional fairy artists, and then also some contemporary ones as well.
Yeah, I know. And it's so great to connect with a contemporary artist because I'll be like, we want to like do things in your style. Is that okay? And everyone so far has been like, yes, that would be great. And so it's so neat to like genuinely connect with contemporary artists as well. You can just go to awesomeartschool.com and join right now. Marcy, all the memberships are the same exact price. Yes, I do have 3 memberships and Lucy has 2. And the Celtic Collective is the one that we do together, which I have to say is freaking fun. It's so freaking fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Is there a way to steal markers? No, you don't steal markers. You don't steal watercolors either. There's a lot of actual mediums that you do not steal. So nope, you don't need to spray them or anything. And one thing I forgot to do is while I have the background color, I'm going to put some dots since we don't have the ability to flick our paint brushes because we have markers. I'm just going to make these little polka dots. Boop. And make it look like we sprayed, even though we didn't. So these you can do on the white. They're very light, but I'm going to do them with the darker color as well
So is
afterwards.
that what are you doing, Karen?
I did, because I can't take a paintbrush and splatter it. I'm just
Oh,
making
you're
actual
doing it with your markers.
like a polka dot for this color. And the second darker color I'm going to use with my paint pen in a minute.
Oh,
But the yellow, I'm just going to do it with my alcohol marker.
Here's a question. Lucy, did you wet the middle section of the cap before adding the black and purple? So, okay, so when I was painting my backgrounds, I wet the middle and did the first layer of that galaxy, and then I let that whole thing dry. For painting the cat, I didn't wet the paper first. I wanted it to be nice and flat, a nice flat color. So I just painted it wet on dry. But when it came to this bit round here, I took a second brush that was wet and then just blended it in by wetting the edges. And actually now I've done the second layer and I added a bit more black and a bit more color. I feel like it looks a lot better. It deepened that color.
Perfect.
You don't seal gouache either. You just frame it. Or if you use acrylic gouache, you don't need to, because then that is just operates the same way as acrylics. But if regular gouache, you would just put it in a frame.
I'm working on Bristol, and you can actually grab our exact supply lists at the link awesomeartschool.com right now. You can actually grab this if you want to see like exactly what we're using. I actually these are actually links to what we're using, just if you want further information. But it's Bristol. All right.
I am going to move on. Which part are you doing next, Karen?
I'm gonna get going on these florals.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that I was going to do.
What are you gonna use for that?
Well, I'm going to use just the purple with a bit of black mixed in. And
Okay.
first of all, I'm going to mix it with my regular paintbrush, because I don't like using my rigger to mix colors. It's too small and fiddly. So I'm just going to mix up some of this purple, and I'm actually going to add the black. Oh, that was blue. Never mind. I'm going to add the black into it to make it a darker color so that it stands out against here.
And I'm using this new paint marker that I have that actually has a brush nib. But if I didn't have this set, I would just use a regular paint pen with a regular nib. This is like a point. This is a 3. What is this? I love Posca pens, are my favorite, but I was just sent these ones, and these are by Artbeak, and they are the same with the same like fluid acrylic ink that Posca pens have, and like Arteza makes them, Sharpie makes them. But you can couple acrylic paint pens super well over alcohol markers because they're nice and opaque, so all your lines will show up awesomely.
Okay, so I am using the rigger brush, which is longer and thinner. You see, it's like a nice long thin brush, but honestly, you don't need to use one of these if you don't have them. You can just use a regular watercolor brush. And then I'm going to start on this side. So I'm having to put my hand this way. But the other thing that you could do is you could actually just turn your paper over, and you could do it coming up this way. And I do like to do that sometimes, but sometimes it's a little bit hard for me personally to get my head around what it's going to look like the other when I turn it back the right way. So I'm going to start off this way, and then I'm going to turn it back. And I'm just using that just to do some little.
And I'm doing fake splashes everywhere because I'm not using markers I'm not using a paintbrush.
And what I do with my paintbrush is sometimes I press it down and then lift it up to get different thicknesses. It just makes it a little bit more interesting.
And you could do that with this as well. Shoop.
And I'm going to turn that round before I go too far, just to check that it's all right. But actually, I kind of like that. Looks all right.
It does. It's beautiful.
Just some little marks at the bottom, just so
Yeah. And one thing to note too, which I love this about this painting, is that to take these floral leafy bits and actually like bust through the circle and go beyond it. It
Yeah,
looks
that's what
beautiful.
I'm doing. I'm coming out the other side.
And it's really a neat way. And this way too, like these vines kind of take center stage, and then you don't really even see the stuff in the background after all that hard work we did. You don't really notice it.
Yeah, but the stuff in the background creates such a nice
It does.
uh, starting point and a background for it.
Yes. Bits. Amy was asking, my foliage is purple. And Amy was asking, can oil-based paint pens used on alcohol markers or just water-based? No, you totally can use oil-based. Yes. You can use oil-based anything with mixed media. It just needs to be it needs to go on top last because it doesn't blend with anything else. I actually don't like to work upside down.
No, I find it tricky because I can't get my head around what I'm doing.
Yeah, same. It's gonna, and then I'm like, nope, can't do
Yeah.
that.
Someone asked whether I preferred acrylic or regular gouache, and my answer to that would be
Regular.
I kind of like both for different reasons.
Yeah, I would have said you would have said. I would have thought you would have said traditional gouache.
Yeah, I would say probably more traditional gouache, but I do quite like acrylic gouache for certain projects because it dries permanent, so you can then paint layers on top. So it depends. I would say it depends what kind of painting that I'm doing, but for the most part, the traditional gouache.
Lucy
I
is
am using the purple mixed with some of the black to make it darker. So I just took the purple and I mixed some of the dark in. And I haven't done my eye yet. Karen has. She just used the yellow paint marker.
We also for anyone who's doing this with us today or doing it by tomorrow, we have a giveaway for this project tomorrow. We actually run giveaways every single month of the whole year in my Facebook group. And we're giving away, well, we always have a ton of giveaways, but we are, for this project, if you want to use, you're going to come join my Facebook group, which is, you can just go to Facebook and search Awesome Art School. And if you use the hashtag Karen's YouTube, if you're on YouTube, you can also use Fart Along if you're on Facebook, but they both garner the same award, which is you can choose any one of my art books or 18 choose one of 18 pencil pouch designs. So like ton of good stuff.
Yeah, we've even got a book together, haven't we?
We do have an awesome book together. Oh my god, I just turned around to see my books and Bob Ross scared the shit out of me. I was like,
Bob Ross is a ghosty.
I know. I'm just gonna show. I like turn around and there's Bob right there. Oh, my mullet is holding up. I look amazing still.
I think while you're doing that, I'm going to draw in my eye and color it in quickly so that I can catch up with you. And actually, what I find super handy for this kind of project is before I go straight in with a paint pan, which is a little bit daunting, I'm just going to take a white colored pencil, or you can even take like a white Stabilo all pencil, which is maybe a little bit more easier to show up on here. And the white is just going to give me, I can just draw it out first. So I'm just drawing it the same way that Karen did, where I've got where this part of the face comes down like this. I'm just going to do a straight line. And then it curves round here. It's a bit hard to see, actually. Can't see a thing, can you? Let me see. Zoom in. I don't know if you guys can see that at all. I'll maybe just explain it while I'm drawing it. And then I'm just going to curve that round to do the eye. And then now that it's drawn in, I can just take my yellow paint pan and then just, it's nice and opaque on top of the black watercolor. Make sure your watercolor's dry before you do this.
And I'm just going to take like a black fine liner and just do literally just draw like a line down into the eye as like the pupil. I had kept that space open as the paper, and then I just colored it the yellow of the background. And then I'm just going to use this same fine liner to do all the whiskers. I did it in pencil yesterday, and it's way better if you can see it more.
Yes, I used a fine liner for mine.
Add those in now.
Yeah, I used to actually just used like a just a black fine liner pen. Ooh. So I'm going to do mine. We're kind of at the same stage now, doing similar things and even using similar materials. What I did with my whiskers, I don't know if you did this, Karen, but I thought it looked super cool, was I used the black on the outside bit, and then on the inside bit,
Oh, yeah.
I took a white.
So
I
smart.
kind of joined them up.
That's so smart. I did it with blue yesterday. So I did the same thing as you, but with blue, but it actually looks white. But I like your idea better because my blue is actually a little bit too thick. And I think my white, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to copy you.
Yeah, I haven't drawn them perfectly this time. It's a little bit messy.
Oh, that looks good. Thanks for the hot tip, Lucy. I'm also going to start my stars, and I'm using this Posca pen, which is like, honestly, I don't even know what color this is. Like
okay, I'm going to bust out the acrylic ink. And because I don't want to take it straight from the bottle, I'm actually going to just put a little bit out into my watercolor palette. So let me just do that over here so you guys can see.
Faber-Castell Pitt pens would not work the same. Do you
They're
mean
not opaque enough, are they?
No, they're not opaque enough. They wouldn't cover. You need the acrylic. So my acrylic ink is in a pen, and Lucy's acrylic ink is in a bottle, but they're both actually acrylic ink. So that is nice. It has the opacity that we're looking for.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love me a Pitt pen all day long, but it's not opaque enough. The whites actually are pretty good, actually.
I feel like I need pen lessons because I can't get them to work for me the way that I want them.
The whites are actually not bad.
Right, with the dotting tool, I'm using kind of the bigger size one, and I'm going to just start putting in some dots. And then usually what you find with this is the first dot is kind of nice and big, and then as you go around, it gets smaller. And then every time you put it back in, the first dot is big, and then they get smaller, and that's actually giving me that variety in size that I want. I will need to go back over my eye once it's dry. I'm just going to do some random galaxy sky dots all over the cat.
I know that you don't realize how many there are until you look at the reference. And you're like, no,
There's quite a
there's like
lot of them.
50 of them. And also when you're making this,
Karen,
what?
did you count them?
No, no way, Jose. Do you think I would take the time to do that? Never.
Some of them come off the edge as well
Oh,
of the
yes.
cat, and you
Right.
can do some of them onto um your
Yeah.
background. And don't forget the tail.
Yeah, and make them different sizes.
Oh,
That makes it look a lot more authentic galaxy style.
this is what this dotting tool. You actually get different sizes of dotting tools as well.
I'm jealous. I have one of those, but Lord knows where it is. No
Oh,
idea.
really? This is one of
Yeah,
my favorite things to use. I
I know.
love it. Look, here's the little dot. So I can do little dots with this one. So it's usually two sizes, one on either end, so you can get different variations.
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 Variations. Variations.
These guys spent the whole week in Scotland.
No, I've only been back for
Oh,
1
the
week.
way that I spoke and
Oh,
got to say the word bushes
because they
on
say douche.
many, many occasions.
Yes. Oh, you mean Cheryl using India ink for the whole project? Yeah, it would be a very different experience. You could do it, but it wouldn't. Uh, it would work very differently. They don't blend together the way that alcohol markers blend together. They're they just don't. But you could try it and see. When in doubt, try it out. That's my philosophy. And you can also pop these little babies elsewhere as well.
Oh, I think I've gone off the screen. I was getting, you know how you were getting absorbed earlier into
Yes, I
blend?
was sucked in
I
forever.
am so
Awesome,
sucked into
right?
doing little dots. Like,
That's
that's the thing that sucks me in. I get so
no.
sucked into it.
I can also use the little gel pen for the little whiskers and the ears. Did you do that?
Not yet, but I will do.
Did it?
The only thing I found is that's where I ended up going back in afterwards with a black gel pen and just tidying it up because I found my gel pen. Maybe it's just me. It almost wasn't it wasn't thin enough. I didn't like it. It was like it looks a bit thick and awkward there. But maybe that's just me being super fussy.
Well, I know. I just bought after I spoke with Kevin Keel and asked him what jelly rolls he used, like I got the multi-pack so that I could have some finer ones and
Oh
some
yeah. I
so
don't have a fine one.
you could
This is
reach for a fine one. Also,
yeah.
like refine my star looks kind of shitty. Well, you're very welcome, Christy Ann. I hope that you learned something new today. I just had the most relaxing. I love this. I can do it all day. Well, I guess that's why we teach so many classes, right? We love it. That's why I do it. I literally love it. Cannot get enough.
So I'm just going back in to just brighten that eye. And you can either use the gold for the star with a small paintbrush. So I've just got a small paintbrush here. Or you can use the yellow Posca. I haven't actually done any yellow Posca yet. I think I'm just going to use my brush and do the gold
Oops.
acrylic ink.
I was like all done and then I just went outside the lines, right? That's like so typical. Like, don't go back in. Don't go back in. All right, I think I'm pretty much done.
Done?
Yeah, and also, one thing that we just started doing is for our club members who join Lifetime, we mail them a free piece of art, don't
I
we?
know. Somebody might get this at some point.
Oh, somebody's gonna definitely get this at some
I
point.
know.
We just started, which is super fun. And that's also why I don't have hardly any art left because
I
I just
know.
filled
Me
it all
neither.
away, which is super fun.
I only had the last the last 2 months worth.
Yep. So if anyone has any questions, fire away. The giveaway for this is tomorrow. Our Facebook group is Awesome Art School. Here's the link. Awesome Art School. So this is this is my free Facebook group. You're all invited. Oh, good. Allison said she learned new things from both of us today.
Oh, that's what we're here for. I hope my head wasn't in the way there. I was
No,
concentrating.
no, it wasn't.
Sometimes when I concentrate, I lean over.
Yeah,
And
no, you're good.
then I realize I'm actually leaning totally in the way of my drawing.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I'm gonna do.
Oh, Marge got her artwork. Yay! It's super fun. People have been very shy about receiving them. I'm surprised. You're so welcome. Yay. Oh, thank you, Vivian. Yeah, it's very surprising that you can get these kind of looks with markers. I was surprised, to be honest, doing it last night, doing my mock-up. I was like, oh, hot damn, that actually worked. And I was wondering kind of halfway through, like, ooh, I don't know. I hope this works. I said I was gonna do it with markers, and I don't know if it will. And I really found that it actually did. So yay.
I'm just finishing up by being super fussy and just using the black fine liner to tidy up my white gel pen. And then I'm done.
And Tasha missed how you painted the eye. Can you say that one more time?
I just used the yellow Posca. And then when it was dry, I used just a black fine liner just to draw one line down the middle, just like Karen did for the pupil. And I could probably go back in with the yellow Posca and just brighten that up, but I need to wait for it to dry. So
yeah, my stars.
I think it's good enough now.
Yeah, mine's very janky. I can't, like, free-handed stars are very difficult.
Yeah, my star, that's the thing I found the hardest.
Yeah, me too. It also looks the worst, but I'm over it.
Probably a good idea to draw that out in colored pencil first as well.
Yes. We're so glad that you guys had fun. We will do this in case you have any. Oh, let me get our order straight. Yes. If you have any further questions, we are here for you right now. This will still be available as a replay at the same link. I don't delete my live streams, so it'll just live on. If you forever and ever. So subscribe to this channel. And I also drop a new video for you every Wednesday anyways, so it's worth it. Always free. What else? The giveaways tomorrow in the Facebook group. And if you have fun with us, come and join the Celtic Collective. Yeah. We have fun like this every freaking day. It's awesome.
We do these every month. You can
yeah. We dump new lessons every month, whether you like it or not. So yeah, it's super fun. Oh, and in our Celtic Collective Club, we also do a members only podcast, which is always on the 21st. And this month, I gifted Lucy markers for her birthday like 2 years ago, and she's never used them. So we're gonna do a project and we're gonna swap and we're gonna make
scared. Scared to do markers.
Yes. So we're going to do this, but like in reverse. I should probably do gouache because I need to get better at it. So, or like something that I've never done before, like oils pastels. So
I'm actually super excited to try the markers.
I know. It's going to be hilarious.
Yours looks absolutely amazing, Karen.
Oh, my little fun. Thank you. The whole time I'm doing it, I'm like, is it going to work? 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 And then you're like, but look at the gorgeousness of the wet on wet. I mean, it's a lot easier to do this in watercolors. It's like natural for that. You put your hat back a little so you're not obstructing our view. There you go. I couldn't see it. It was blocking your gorgeous watercolors.
My head's a bit too big for hats. That's the problem.
I have a huge head too, although I'm rocking my
All those
mullet wig.
braids you've got.
Yeah, our big braids. Definitely the problem. Hilarious. Oh, Tanya says, I'm going to try this right now. She says,
I know. I just saw that.
Wait,
That's
draw
like,
a Y. I need to try because I don't believe it. Draw a Y. Okay. And then just draw a straight line across the middle.
No, that doesn't work.
It doesn't look right, Tanya. I feel like we're missing this one and then also this one.
So
I
is
think
it
we would do like an X and then
it's 2 Y's.
2 Y's.
One.
She just said draw a Y. Draw 2 Y's.
No, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that doesn't work. But you could do a cross, and that way. The problem is that I mean, really, you could do it like a kindergarten 5-star one and then paint it in. That's probably the easiest thing to do.
When I did them with the kids in school, I like to do them without as many arms, and you go up and down and across and then across and then down.
That's how I learned to do them in like kindergarten. But this one was a 6-sided star, and I was trying
5.
I know it's too late now.
Too late.
Too late now.
I'm hurting my brain a little bit, trying to figure out how to get it to look right.
Oh, this is super funny. Margie says that she did a piece which is supposed to be soft pan pastels, but none to be found. So she bought dollar store eyeshadow. That's hilarious. And you probably saved like a gajillion dollars because pan pastels are super expensive. So go, Margie. Love it. Hot tip.
I could try that with the big box of colored eyeshadow that I never use, that I only use tonight for my green. That
I was just saying, you probably have your dollar store eye green on like right now.
Yeah, I do.
I feel like I should draw a mustache.
Just don't use a Sharpie.
This is my eyeliner. It's a really good color. I just feel like if I'm gonna go all the way. It's like almost trick-or-treating time.
I know.
Oh God.
I can't wait to see everyone's finished paintings.
Yeah, guys, seriously. Now I really look like a man. It's my unibrow that really gets me excited about for Halloween. My kids are like have aged out. They're just like home. Actually, Max is going to a party, little social butterfly that he is. Do 2 triangles on top of each other. Now I want to try all of these. Oh, you did? Anita, you gotta post it in the Facebook group. Okay, here we go. 2 triangles on top of each other.
Oh yes, that's exactly how you do it.
That is how you do it. That's just like a
I think the thing that was confusing me about this one is that they were a lot longer and thinner, but I should have done it that way.
This is like a proper pentagram, isn't it? I always get all the stars confused.
Yeah.
Oh, don't use a Sharpie. I know, right? It's highly realistic. I saw a guy at the band competition who had those like the perfectly sculpted
Real mustache.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had like perfectly round things and like the most perfect. And I was like staring at his face.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh crap, don't stop staring at him. But it was like hard not to because it was amazing. You just don't see that every day.
Yeah.
Oh, good. You are welcome, everyone. Oh, Star of David.
Oh, yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
No, I get that confused with all the things. Thank you. I was thinking that as I was drawing it as well. And I was like, I don't want to sound like a moron. Too late. Awesome. All right. Well, we can't wait to see your renditions. I'm going to be live in the Facebook group tomorrow at 1 to give away the prizes. So me and Barbara
hop in as well.
You better. More fun, the merrier, really, every time. So, all right, signing off, Amos. Bob Ross is super fan. Happy Halloween, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much. That was
Thank
so
you.
much fun.
It was so much fun.
Bye.